Why You're Never Satisfied, The Science of the Restless Mind. Chapter 1. The Infinite Loop of Desire. We are living in an era of unprecedented achievement, yet we are haunted by a persistent feeling of not enough. You reach a milestone, you buy the house, you get the promotion, and for a few days you feel a surge of dopamine. But then, almost like a clockwork glitch, the emptiness returns. We've been taught to call this ambition or the hustle, but what if it's actually a fundamental misfire in how we understand our own minds? Long before modern psychology, a deep observer of the human condition identified this as the restless heart. He realized that human desire isn't a linear path, but an infinite loop. We are trying to satisfy a hunger that is boundless, using things that are very much limited. In the world today, this is the silent epidemic. We have optimized our productivity, our diets, and our schedules, but we haven't optimized our meaning. When you treat your life like a series of boxes to check, you eventually run out of boxes, but the void remains. This is what Viktor Frankl called the existential vacuum. It's the boredom that follows success. It's the realization that you have the means to live, but you have forgotten the why. This first chapter is about identifying the loop. If you feel restless, it's not because you are failing, it's because your internal architecture is designed for something larger than what you are currently giving it. You are trying to fill an ocean with a teaspoon. The frustration you feel isn't a sign of a broken brain, but of a spirit that is refusing to settle for a kind lie. You have been told that the next purchase or the next achievement will be the one that finally makes you rest, but that is the greatest deception of our age. To break the loop, we have to stop asking, "How can I get more?" and start asking, "What is the nature of this thirst?" By acknowledging that our restlessness is actually a compass, we can begin to pivot. We move from being reactive to our desires to being intentional about our purpose. The glitch in your satisfaction isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's the internal alarm system telling you that you were made for a different kind of fulfillment altogether.
Chapter 2. Internal Gravity. Ordering Your Desires. Every object in the universe is governed by gravity, and your mind is no different. You have an internal gravity, a force that pulls your attention, your energy, and your anxiety toward whatever you value most at any given moment. The problem for most of us living in a high-pressure, competitive society is that our gravity is disordered. We have been conditioned to place the most weight on things that are inherently unstable: public opinion, financial status, or physical appearance. Because these things are fragile and constantly changing, our internal world feels like it's in a state of perpetual collapse. We are anxious because our foundation is moving. An ancient psychological insight suggests that peace isn't found by having fewer desires, but by ordering them correctly. Imagine a pyramid. If you put a heavy, solid block at the peak and try to balance it on tiny, fragile stones at the base, the structure will fall. This is how many of us live. We put the heavy meaning of our lives into lightweight things like social media likes or a job title. When those things shake, our whole world shakes. To achieve what the thinkers called an ordered heart, you must flip the pyramid. You must place your ultimate value on something that cannot be taken away from you: your character, your contribution to others, or your pursuit of truth. Viktor Frankl saw this clearly in the most extreme laboratory of human behavior. He observed that those who tied their gravity to external goals, like just surviving or getting back to their old status, often lost their will when those goals seemed impossible. But those who anchored their gravity in a why that transcended their immediate comfort remained upright. They had an internal stability that the external chaos couldn't touch. This chapter is a call to audit your own gravity. Look at where your anxiety is highest. That is usually where you have placed too much weight on a finite object. By consciously moving your primary value to a higher, more infinite purpose, you don't just find meaning, you find balance. You stop being a victim of life's fluctuations and become a person with a centered soul. When your loves are ordered, your life follows suit. You find that you can move through the world with a sense of lightness because the things that used to crush you no longer hold the top position in your heart.
Chapter 3. The Internal Compass. Detecting Truth in the Noise. We are currently living through the loudest era in human history. Every time you open your phone, you are met with 1,000 different voices telling you who you should be, what you should want, and how you should feel. In this constant barrage of external data, it is easy to lose track of your own frequency. However, both ancient wisdom and modern existential analysis suggest that you possess an internal compass, a sophisticated sensor designed to detect truth amidst the noise. You might know it as intuition or a gut feeling, but its function is much deeper. It is the organ of meaning. This compass doesn't speak in loud commands. It speaks in the language of peace and friction. When you are moving toward a goal that aligns with your deepest purpose, you feel a sense of internal flow, even if the path is difficult. But when you are pursuing a disordered love, something that doesn't actually fit your internal architecture, the compass creates friction. You feel a sense of dread, a quiet anxiety, or a persistent hollow in your chest. Viktor Frankl argued that we do not invent the meaning of our lives. We detect it. We listen for it. Our job is not to be a creator of meaning, but a responder to the calls that life makes upon us. One of the most brilliant minds of the 4th century described this as an interior master. He believed that you don't need more external information to find the right path. You need more internal silence. The truth isn't something you go out to find. It's something you return to find. We are obsessed with finding ourselves through travel, new jobs, or new relationships. But if your internal compass is demagnetized by the noise of the world, you will be lost even in paradise. This chapter is about recalibrating that sensor. It requires the courage to sit in silence and ask, is the life I am living actually mine, or is it a script written by someone else? When you start to trust this internal voice, your decision-making changes. You stop asking what is profitable and start asking what is true. By following this compass, you bridge the gap between your restless heart and your daily actions. You discover that you don't need a map of the whole world if you have a reliable needle pointing you toward your North Star.
Chapter 4. The Harvest of Time. Why your history is your fortress. In a culture obsessed with the next big thing, we tend to view the past as a graveyard of lost opportunities. We are constantly told to let go and live in the moment, as if our history were a heavy chain dragging behind us. We worry that as time passes, our youth, our achievements, and our experiences are being deleted from the record of existence. But this perspective is a psychological trap. It makes us feel like we are constantly losing ourselves to the march of time. A more profound view, found in both ancient philosophy and the clinical observations of Viktor Frankl, suggests the exact opposite. The past is actually the safest place in the world. Think of your life as a granary. Every action you've taken, every hardship you've endured with dignity, and every person you've helped is a harvest that has been safely stored away. Once a moment has passed, it doesn't disappear. It moves from the uncertainty of the future into the permanence of the past. Frankl called this the storehouse of being. In this view, your past is not a weight, it is your ultimate fortress. It is a collection of realities that are now eternally yours. Even if your future feels uncertain or your present feels limited, your past remains a solid monument of who you have been and what you have actualized. This harvest perspective is the ultimate cure for regret. When you look back at a difficult year, instead of seeing lost time, you should see stored experience. An ancient observer once noted that our memory is like a vast palace where we can revisit the moments that shaped us. By visiting this palace, we realize that we haven't lost anything. The love we gave, the courage we showed in a crisis, and the lessons we learned are now part of our inner citadel. They are the only things that are truly 100% ours, safe from the fluctuations of the economy or the opinions of others. This shift provides a deep, quiet confidence. You don't have to panic about the future because your storehouse is already growing. You are the sum of every meaningful choice you have ever made. By acknowledging that your past is a permanent source of power, you find the strength to face the present. You realize that you aren't walking toward a void, you are building a legacy that is already being recorded in the fabric of reality. Your history isn't a shadow following you, it is the solid ground upon which you stand.
Chapter 3. The Architect of the Soul, Forging Resilience. In our daily lives, we often feel like we are at the mercy of external forces. We blame our stress on the economy, our frustration on our boss, and our unhappiness on our upbringing. We act as if we are merely products of our environment, reacting like billiard balls being hit by a cue. But a profound truth remains. While we do not always choose the cards we are dealt, we are the absolute architects of how we play them. This is what we call the defiant power of the spirit. It is the realization that between a stimulus and your response, there is a space. In that space lies your final, unbreakable freedom. Viktor Frankl observed this in the most extreme laboratory of human behavior imaginable. He saw that even when every physical liberty was stripped away, the one thing that could not be taken was the ability to choose one's attitude. This is the act of self-transcendence. It means that you are not just a biological machine reacting to inputs, you are a conscious creator who decides what a situation means. If you view a challenge as a threat, you will feel anxiety. If you view it as an assignment or a test of your character, you will feel a sense of purpose. This is where your life becomes a work of architecture. Every time you face a difficult day and decide to remain patient, you are adding a stone to your inner citadel. Every time you suffer a loss and decide to find a way to help someone else, you are strengthening the pillars of your soul. Ancient wisdom suggests that the soul is not something you are born with fully formed. It is something you forge through the heat of your decisions. You are not a cog in the machine. You are the engineer of your own resilience. This shift is revolutionary. It means that your current crisis is not an obstacle to your growth. It is the very material you need to build your strength. In the high-pressure environment of 2026, the architect mindset is the only thing that prevents burnout. When you realize that you are the one who gives meaning to the event, you reclaim your power. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this calling me to become?" By taking responsibility for your attitude, you transform from a passive observer of your life into the master of your destiny. Chapter 6. The Final Synthesis, Living with Unshakable Meaning. We began this journey by identifying a glitch in the human system, that persistent restlessness that keeps us searching for more. We have learned that this feeling is not a defect, but a compass pointing toward a higher purpose. Now we arrive at the final synthesis, the realization that a meaningful life is not one that is free of pain, but one that has discovered a super meaning. This is the ultimate why that stands behind every how. It is the understanding that your life is not a random accident, but a unique task in a much larger story. When you reach this level of awareness, your meaning becomes unbreakable. Viktor Frankl suggested that the final stage of human maturity is the ability to trust that there is a logic to our existence, even when we cannot see it. He called this the act of existential faith. It is the decision to live as if every moment matters, as if every suffering has a point, and as if every act of kindness is being recorded in the storehouse of being. This isn't about blind optimism, it's about a radical, grounded hope.
It is the peace that comes when the restless heart finally finds its anchor. You stop fighting the waves and start trusting the depth of the ocean. In our modern, fast-paced world, people are constantly looking for a reset button. But the true reset happens when you change your perspective from "what can I get from life" to "what does life expect from me?" When you live with this mindset, the existential vacuum disappears. You no longer feel empty because you realize you are a vital participant in a meaningful reality. Your past is a fortress of achievements, your present is an arena for choice, and your future is a horizon of potential. You have become the master of your inner citadel. This is the end of the search, but the beginning of a new way of living. You are now equipped with the tools to navigate the storm. You know how to order your desires, listen to your internal compass, and forge your soul through the heat of your decisions. Go forth with the quiet confidence of someone who has found their center. You are a being made for the infinite, and your life, exactly as it is an assignment worthy of your best self. The search for meaning is over. The living of it has begun.